Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Wow. Wow. I cannot believe this story when I first read it, okay? Because the woke revolutionaries told us that this does not exist. Racism against whites does not exist. It's not possible. It's not possible. In fact, the systemic racism is against so-called people of color, aka non-whites. However, anytime you ask them to point to a specific policy that calls for discrimination against non-whites, they don't have anything, right? They have nothing. However, what I can do is that I can point to you very specific policies that call for discrimination against whites. For example, like affirmative action, right? Or this story that we have here that involves a Minneapolis teachers union contract that calls to lay off white teachers first, okay? If a school district has to fire a teacher because they're making cuts, right? Because they're making layoffs. So to protect so-called teachers of color, they have to fire white ones first because too many teachers of color were being fired first due to the seniority rule, right? Or the standard that they had when it came to applying layoffs. So now they changed that because it's like, well, too many black teachers are being fired. So therefore, we got to change that to make it so white teachers get fired first. Again, this is an absolutely unbelievable story that, in my opinion, is unconstitutional. It's blatantly racist. It's blatantly discriminatory. And I guarantee the mainstream liberal media won't talk about it. And that is why I'm talking about it. But before I get into that, I just want to let you guys know, if you like my channel, you want to support my channel, you can do so by checking out some of my new merch, my donkey pox shirts, the disease that is affecting America, or my hashtag no days off /hard work patriotic t-shirts. You can get them at gforemanbcp.com using discount code gforemanbcp for 20% off. And I know that some of you guys have emailed me about having difficulties finding the discount code. Therefore, I am going to include this video right here showing you where to find it. It's on the page before you actually check out. And I'm going to include a link in the comment section that will automatically apply a 20% discount to your order to make sure that you guys are getting it. And one more thing here, guys, when you receive your shirts, if you want to be featured on my website, okay, because I'm going to be making some changes to my website and I want to make sure you guys are a part of it. If you want to take some pictures and, the shirts or whatever and send them to me at my email address, hello@gforemanbcp.com, you can do that for an opportunity to have your picture featured on my website. So, without further ado, let's get into this. Minneapolis teachers union contract would lay off white teachers first. Wow, can't believe I'm reading this headline in 2022, except I actually can't believe it. A Minneapolis teachers union contract states white teachers will be laid off or reassigned before educators of colors if a reduction in staff is initiated, Alpha News reports. The Star Tribune reports the, quote, seniority-disrupting language in the policy is rare among school districts across the nation, and at least one constitutional law attorney has called the contract's proviso a violation of the Constitution and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. Again, apparently the wokes don't believe that applies to whites, right? The Civil Rights Act don't apply to whites, okay, according to them. But the move is billed as a way to retain teachers of color by those who support it. Quote, it can be a national model, and schools in other states are looking to emulate what we did. Edward Barley, a member of the Minneapolis Federation of Teachers Executive Board, told the Star Tribune, quote, even though it doesn't do everything we want it to do, but it's still a huge move for the retention of teachers of color. So they want to go even further with this, right? It's not enough just to discriminate against white teachers, right, by firing them first, despite seniority status, okay? They want to do even more. The policy is reportedly a result of a new collective bargaining agreement reached between the Minneapolis Federation of Teachers and Minneapolis Public Schools to end a strike during the spring. Alpha News, which obtained a copy of the agreement, reported August 14th, quote, one of the proposals dealt with educators of color protections. The agreement states that if a non-white teacher is subject to excess, MPS must access a white teacher with the next least seniority. So basically what it sounds like to me is that if a non-white teacher is subject to excess, aka a black teacher, right, is subject to excess, the school district must access a white teacher with the next least seniority first. Okay. Wow. Wow. This is kind of crazy. This is kind of crazy. Starting with the spring 2023 budget tie-out cycle, if accessing a teacher who is a member of a population underrepresented among licensed teachers in the site, the district shall access the next least senior teacher who is not a member of an underrepresented population. The agreement reads. Wow. Again, how is this not blatant racism? Shouldn't the race crusaders, if they were actually principled, they should be standing up against this and saying no. No discrimination, no racism towards anybody, period. But that's how you know these people are full of it. Because for me, I've never denied that racism against black people exists in the U.S. It definitely exists. I don't think it's as prevalent as the left says it is. But if I see it, I'll call it out. If it's this blatant, right? And if I see racism against whites this blatant, I will call it out. Because obviously it's wrong. It is wrong. You know, I understand wanting so-called minority teachers to keep their jobs. However, you shouldn't even be firing people when you're doing layoffs based off seniority. You should be firing them based off of their performance, right? The teachers that aren't performing the best should be the ones that should be fired regardless of how senior they are, right? Because if a senior teacher is there and she isn't performing well, if she's basically halfway into retirement, her kids aren't performing well, her test scores are low, she should go, right? She should be one of the first people to leave. That's the problem. The teachers union, they do too much to protect failing teachers. And they're too worried about being woke instead of being worried about performance, right? So if you got to lay teachers off, you lay them off by performance. That way you never have to deal with this. I don't care what the racial makeup is of the teachers in the school. All I care about is how good they are. If you're a good teacher, you should stay. If you're a bad teacher, you should go. Whether you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Indian, Arab, whatever. I don't care. But again, these people don't think like that. They think race equals performance. Race don't equal performance. Performance equals performance. And that's what matters here. According to the United Federation of Teachers, accessing means reducing staff in a particular school when there's a reduction in the number of available positions in a title or license area in that school, aka firing them, right? The agreement adds that non-white teachers, as well as those working in various programs, may be exempted from district-wide layoffs outside seniority order. The agreement also prioritizes the reinstatement of teachers from underrepresented populations over white teachers. So yeah, basically, once they come back to try to hire you again, they're going to prioritize non-whites. Again, more discrimination, right? More blatant discrimination. The policy, however, is a violation of the Constitution and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, according to Washington, D.C. based attorney and education watchdog Hans Bader. Writing on Liberty Unyielding, Bader argued, quote, it is illegal under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act when it comes to termination as opposed to hiring or promotion under an affirmative action plan, which I also think is unconstitutional as well too. But that's another video for another day. An employer can't racially discriminate even against whites. That's not what the wokes think. The Third Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in 1996 that a school district can't consider race even as a tiebreaker in deciding who to lay off, even to promote diversity, because that unduly tramples the white teacher's rights. Even affirmative action plans are supposed to be mild and not unduly trample someone's rights, and getting fired as opposed to being denied a promotion unduly trammels someone's rights. And B, putting that aside, the school district couldn't consider race to promote diversity when black people weren't seriously underrepresented in its workforce as a whole. That rule was Taxman versus Board of Education of Piscataway Way. So the reason why they're saying that black teachers are underrepresented, the argument here is that, well, the school district in and of itself is like, I think it's 60% black or something like that. Regardless, it's majority black, the students. And they're saying that, well, because the teachers, don't represent that amount, then the teachers are underrepresented, the black teachers. And it's like, no. Black people, 13% of the population here. Okay. Technically, if you have more than 13% of black teachers, then they're overrepresented, right? Again, I don't care about what the race of the teacher is compared to the race of the students. That doesn't matter to me. What really matters is the performance. That's it. It is also unconstitutional for more complicated reasons under the Supreme Court's decision of Wajent versus Jackson Board of Education. In that case, the Supreme Court overturned race-based layoffs by a 5-4 vote. 5 justices said a school district can't lay off white teachers to remedy societal discrimination against blacks. 4 of those 5 also said that the Constitution forbids laying off people based on race as opposed to considering race in hiring and promotions, even to remedy a school district's own discrimination. You can't fight racism with more racism, right? That's basically how it goes. You can't fight racism with more racism. James Dickey, senior trial counsel at the Upper Midwest Law Center, told Alpha News he believes the policy is unconstitutional. Quote, the collective bargaining agreement openly discriminates against white teachers based on the color of their skin and not their seniority or merit, Dickey said. Minneapolis teachers and taxpayers who oppose government-sponsored racism like this should stand up against it. Yeah, but see, people like me, whom when I see blatant examples of racism, I'll call it out. Whether it's anti-black racism, anti-white racism, whatever you want to call it, I'll call it out if it's blatant, okay? If it's not something where I have to reach to find it, right? Now, I'm not reaching, but this is not a reach. This is what it is, right? However, the woke revolutionaries, they're going to see this and say, oh, man, whatever. We agree with it because we think that racism against whites is okay, right? We think fighting racism with more racism is okay, and that's never okay. It's never okay. So, just another example of how, when it comes to the race crusaders, talking about how the system is so systemically racist against blacks, they can't name anything, but we have just another example of how the system seems to be against whites. I'm just saying. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.